Hello, my name is Mikea James, and I would like to welcome you to my video blog, Mikea's Monologue, Life Lessons from the Single Gal. But first things first, I just turned 30 years old, so happy birthday to me. But I'm single. A year ago, when I turned 29 years old, I prayed and I asked God that by my 30th birthday, that I'd be in a relationship with the man I'd marry. Before you laugh, I want you to know that God is able. But there's actually more to this story. So another thing I did was I made that list. And what I mean by that list is that list that every girl makes that includes all of the qualities that she wants in a man. And I prayed over this list just like everybody else does. And this actually wasn't the first time that I made this list. I'd done it several times before, but this particular time, I felt a conviction. And I asked myself, well, Mikea, do you qualify for this type of man? And I know what many women would say is, hell yeah, you qualify for that man. But just with all seriousness, I ask myself, well, if you were this man, what type of woman would you consider amazing? So I then developed a list for myself. And it was a very, very eye-opening experience for me, simply because I realized that there were just a lot of things that I needed to work on. Aside from my professional accomplishments, such as wanting to be a business owner or wanting to be on a certain level financially, there were a lot of things that I needed to work on personally. And this list was the eye-opener for that for me. And I also, at the same time, felt like God was telling me, you're not going to get where you're trying to go or have what you're trying to have unless you start making some changes. So I use this list as my blueprint for my journey to 30 and becoming the woman I admire. So today, what I want to do is share with you the 4 steps that I took to complete this journey. So here we go. So the first thing I did was self-reflection. Self-reflection is one of the most mature and humbling things that a person could ever do for themselves, especially if you've been single for a long time, because you've probably grown set in your ways and you've developed this mentality where, hey, if he doesn't like me, he can just take it or leave it, because the man that God has for me is supposed to accept me with flaws and all. And that's okay, and that's true to a certain extent, because even the man that's for you doesn't want to deal with certain things. For example, one thing that I have struggled with all of my life is that I can have a little bit of a temper sometimes and a mouth on me. And there was this one individual that I was seeking to get to know, and I liked him a lot. But one day, I said something to him that I probably shouldn't have said. I snapped on him, cursed at him a little bit, and he decided, I'm not going to take that. I'm going to leave it. So what if one day you run into someone that you really wanted to stay in your life, but they decided that they're just going to leave it? That's not going to be a great experience for you, and it's definitely going to be eye-opening. And aside from this whole take it or leave it thing, There are a lot of us who lie to ourselves, and we want other people to lie to us as well. For example, we all have that one friend who will agree with our dysfunction just because they're dysfunctional as well. And that's not a good thing either. If you don't hear anything else that I say in this video, one thing that you should definitely take away is that sometimes in order to get something that you've never had before, you have to do something that you've never done. And that may include change. The second thing that I had to do was create my plan. So basically, I took this list that I had created, and then I broke it down and placed bullet points under each item that I listed. And I developed a plan for how I wanted to implement these things in my life. For example, I mentioned that one of my issues was my mouth and having a temper. And I wanted to be more understanding. I wanted to be kinder. I wanted to be slow to anger. I wanted to be swift to hear and slow to speak. So one thing that I did was I spent a lot of time with God and meditating on the Word. I also took courses such as Crucial Conversations to work on the way that I said things to people. And another thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to become a life coach and motivational speaker. So I attended countless seminars. I met with individuals who were working in the field that I want to be in, and they mentored me and I learned from them. So if you want to accomplish these things on your list or the things in your heart that you feel you want to do, make a plan. The third thing that I had to do was destroy laziness. Laziness is something that I have struggled with for a very long time, and I'm sure that it's something that a lot of you struggle with as well. And it's so crazy because oftentimes we have the power to control the situations in our life. We have the power to become who we want to be, to have what we want to have, but we just simply don't do the work. For example, there are a lot of us who look in the mirror every day and we may be unhappy about what we look like. It could be something as simple as a little extra belly fat. But we have the power to actually do something about it. We're just not. So the next time you walk past somebody and you see them looking good in their dress or you see them doing their thing, before you hate, remember you have the power to do that very same thing. So during this season of my life, I got serious about this because I didn't want to go into another year being the same way that I was before and not having the things that I wanted to have. And if I didn't have them, I didn't want it to be because of me. So the things that I had on my list, if there were things that I needed to do that day that I didn't do, I don't care if it was 3 o'clock in the morning, I jumped out of my bed and did it just because it convicted me and because it meant that much to me. I don't care if it was a glass sitting on my sink, if it was just one glass. And if I was sitting down on my butt and I knew I could wash that glass, as soon as I thought about it, I would jump out of my seat and go and wash that glass. So remember that. You have the power to do whatever it is you want to do. The fourth thing that I had to do was cast down negative thoughts as well as the negative opinions of others. Because when you're striving to change, sometimes the people around you, they're not ready for that. They're still going to see you as the same person that you've always been. Some people just don't simply just don't believe that people can change. And sometimes they really don't want to see you become any better than you were before. So if this person is actually meant to be in your life, eventually they'll see the change if they stick around. But if this person is continuing to remind you of who you used to be, and if they can't just see past the past, then you may have to let that person go, because that's not something you're going to need during this walk, because there's going to be some times you're going to fail. For example, I have had some moments where maybe I did still not curse someone out, but maybe had a little attitude with someone. But yeah, I felt bad about it. But I just got back up and I kept on going. But I tell you what I did, I got rid of those people who continued to remind me of who I was, because that wasn't good for me. So again, if you don't remember anything else from this video today, I want to make sure that you remember this. In order to get something you never had, you'll have to do something that you've never done. Thank you for joining me today. I hope that you will subscribe to the blog, Mikea's Monologue, Life Lessons from the Single Gal. Thank you.